I was going to attempt to drain that gas tank, but I ran out of time because I have a podcast to do later today. So, Brother Clayton, begin the chants. Finally found somebody who can take this original engine and transmission from Tomo. I'm going to do a bunch of measurements because this is going to be gone and I won't have it here for easy reference when I'm trying to retrofit Miata stuff. So let's get started. That there is about 11 inches. Yeah, 11 inches, 11 and a quarter, perhaps, from the edge of the transmission where it meets the drive shaft to the gear lever. And that's centered at about 9 inches, 9 and a quarter. 9 and a quarter is my better estimate. Let's go on to from top of the bell housing to drive where the drive shaft it meets the drive shaft, so that's rather straight. 31 inches. 32 actually, 32. And finally, just call it there. That is the front of the engine. This is going to be a little more difficult. Yeah, there you go. Front of the engine to drive shaft is 52.5 inches. This is Pooch, what you doing? Interestingly, it's not all one piece down there. Of course, there's a there is a oil pan and maybe screwed there. Trying to retrofit Miata to that. We'll see. I need to measure height now. Height of all things. Okay, so we'll call it from there up. Looking at about 25 inches, 26 inches. And transmission. Hello, dog. I'm just going to do a straight up walk around of the entire engine for all reference points. Original AC unit. It's a lot of vacuum lines for the intake manifold. Interestingly, the motor mount is, the motor is slightly off kilter, which is kind of neat. So that exhaust manifold there. That plate, which sprung a leak one day. Starter. It says MA, I believe, on that side. Actually, I think it's the side. Yep, MA. And now the transmission. It's just like an honest Mazda transmission from that period. Did have a transmission mount, which was yeah, it was right. It was here. No, it was here. Not really sure what the purpose of this was. So it was broken off. You have speedo cable down here somewhere, and then these two, which were like reverse and overdrive indicators. Gonna be fun to try and determine that. It's starting to rain. And one last measurement, motor mount backward, or motor mount to transmission gear lever hole. So I just measured it, and from the edge, the back edge of this, up to the front of that is 36 inches. Exactly. 34 to the center of this, and 32 to the front. These are about 2 inches wide as well. So, yeah, I'm sure that'll be helpful. What are we doing today? Well, finally found a home for that. We kind of need the space cleared, this notwithstanding, of any obstacle, so we can get the Miata in. So, we're loading in the back of that beast. He's turning it around rather gregariously. And we moved all of the other cars. I'm happy to report the Miata still starts right up and runs and drives just fine. And of course the Peugeot is fantastic, because that, as you know, went on a 1,800 mile road trip. Yes, all that remains is moving that around, because it don't got no engine, and bringing that in. I should probably spot him. And now I have to give a massive shout out to Michael Hill, OddFather's Garage on YouTube, for being the closest guy to me that was crazy enough to take on a unloved single overhead cam engine from the early 80s, carbureted by Mazda. To my knowledge, he still has this engine. I think it's just sitting and rotting somewhere, but frankly, I would prefer it went to him still, even to this day, than just to some junkyard. Who knows? Perhaps if you follow his YouTube, you will find perhaps some kind of end to the story of that engine. Thank you, Michael. All right, so we need to get this on. I was going to attempt to drain that gas tank, but I ran out of time because I have a podcast to do later today. So, Brother Clayton, begin the chants. It's the final movement of this Miata under its own power. I am frightfully glad that this thing appears to be working. Wow! You know, usually, it's not without, it's with less drama, or more drama, rather. It is with more drama than this. So that's kind of fun. Alright, move it in there and, repeat what we did to that thing. And with considerable fumes in the garage, we managed to get this up here. I always chicken out a little bit when I try and get this up on these things, because I once did the Peugeot where it just went right over the hump and clammed onto the other side. I'm just glad the ground clearance of that thing was enough that it didn't damage anything. But yeah, it's in the final use of its engine in its original area, because we need to make preparations. All right. Yeah, drain the tank and pull it out. I mean,
it comes out the top.
It comes out the bottom. So what we're going to have to do, honestly, the tank thing is going to have to be after we're finished pulling out the engine. And then, yeah, while this is in here, I'm going to pull that out. And then after this engine is pulled out, then we yank this out.
Well, actually, I don't need to take that tank out.
Yeah, you just need to get the
get in there,
well,
and cut
underneath
top.
that. Yeah, that's what our plan is to cut the top off of this, adapt it to that tank, adapt to the fuel pump harness so that it'll be shorter, because that's a very much narrower tank. But we do need to drain the fuel out of here, and we can do that at ease in here because there's so much room.
Should be fine.
Yeah, so that is our update. And tonight, I start disconnecting this thing, the wiring. Right, let's get going, shall we? So, you may be wondering why I have a bunch of hubcaps in the trunk of this Miata. I can assure you there is a reason. I've quite forgotten. I think we were going to use them as raffle prizes for our show coming up. Speaking of the show, I got to get this thing ready by the show. And by this thing, I mean all of the bits that I'm going to use out of this car. So first things first, disconnect the battery for the final time. Kind of a weird thing is that I believe, in fact, I'm almost certain this isn't how Miata's battery is stock, which is interesting. I mean, it's in the trunk, but it's not with this hookup configuration, and it's very pardon me, it's very ad hoc, slapped together shit, really. So we have our main positive that goes to everything in the car, and I do mean everything. And then you have your ground here, and this somehow worked because I did drive this up and down a hill about 15 miles. So this wire very obnoxiously disconnects here. Very conveniently at your feet, and goes straight to the primary cooling fan. I believe this one, I imagine this one goes on with AC. That's usually how a lot of cars are, if they have two fans. Frankly, I'm not sure, but for whatever reason, like this, I believe this is the thermostat cooling fan on and off switch. So if it detects the coolant, decides if it's getting hot, and then ideally throws the fan on. I guess it's either just not working, or they couldn't be bothered to make it work, so they came up with this solution. Here's your ground for this fan, and here's the to the power, and it's you in a caveman sense of plug in or not plug in, that decides whether or not this gets power or not. The worst part of it is I actually like the idea, and I'm going to retrofit this into Tomo. So I've already bought a fancy fancy little switch that goes on the dashboard, kind of, church it up a little. But it's the same basic principle, on and off. I may jerry-rig this fan to turn on as well, just so that, cooling happens, and, I'm not going to take no for an answer. But yes, that would really the first thing, because it's simple enough for even my cave brain to understand. The first order of business is dismantling these wires, which are just kind of, hanging out on the outside of the car. I have no idea how long this system has been this way. As you can see, this is very much a Washington car, so it's just all sorts of... It's been sitting in a jungle, essentially, a very cold jungle for a while. So, your guess is as good as mine for how long this system has been in place. But that would be the easy-ish part to kind of get my appetite whetted, because the rest of the job tonight, and however much longer it takes, is disconnecting all of the wiring to this Miata. Because you see, unlike most videos where you witness them take the engine out of the Miata, I don't just want the engine out of the Miata, I want everything that makes the engine work out of the Miata too. And that includes the ECU, which is under the passenger side floorboard, the firewall rather, and everything else that makes this thing freaking tick. So, really, in my quest for understanding how this thing works, taking the engine out is pretty simple, especially considering what I just did. And by just did, I mean a month ago with Tomo, pulling out that engine. It's not that different. I don't foresee it being that different of a process. And if not, I have a ton of YouTube videos to choose from. Where there is a surprising lack of documentation is in, let's say, taking the ECU and the wiring loom and everything that's involved out. So, I'm starting with that and leaving the easy part, which will be yanking the engine out, for later. But yeah, let's get to it. I'll try to document as much as I can here and there. But I will also have music on, so then get copyright strikes. So let's have me stop talking and start this thing. Go without saying to label all of the things, and I do mean all of the things. That is what they used as a ground. That to the previous owner that disconnected these already, because I didn't need to fiddle with them at all, because they weren't connected to anything. And thank you, Mazda, for making this out of aluminum, because then I could carry this on my own. Alright, so I just had a look at this diagnostic port, which I definitely want to retrofit. And now it's clear. Clear of any and all things. I just pulled this out, which was electrical taped all throughout in here. Near as I can tell, this is a bit like, I've had an OBD1 car before. I've had to count the flashes. I imagine this is a ever so slightly more fancy solution for like checking checking engine codes and counting the flashes. And if you don't know, so okay, for OBD1, it's either a trick or they'll actually encourage you to do this. If you were to make a connection between two of these here pins, it's very, there you go. It's very old school computer technology. If you made a connection between, whatever two of those pins and then turned the ignition on, the check engine light would flash, and flash what the engine code or the check engine code would be. So it'd be like, if it was 24, it'd be flash, flash, and then nothing for a second, and then flash, 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 flash. So you would go 2, 4, and you'd count. Therefore, count the flashes. If you've ever heard anyone say count the flashes, that's what they mean. I think that's what this is. I don't see what other purpose it could possibly serve. Of course, I just yanked it off like an idiot without thinking, but, you know, it wouldn't be the first time. That is a wrap for tonight, because I have to pull the ECU out, and there are a lot of items here that I know what they do, some of them, or most of them, but I don't know exactly how they're connected, and if I don't know how they're connected, I can't really disconnect them. So, I could be exploring blind, or I could be going and doing some research. I'm going to do the latter, so, yeah. We will continue tomorrow. Okay, night 2 of the Miata. And here is my brilliant plan. So, we're going to extract all of the wiring. The entire wiring loom from this thing, which is where the battery is, or was, throughout the entire engine. And because it's all bundled together, like most cars, what I'm going to do is, obviously label everything, and while the wiring loom is out of the car, determine, hey, do I need this? Do I need that? Do I need the other thing? It ain't rocket science. Like, I've got a wiper motor. I don't need that. So eventually this will be torn off of this system as we rewire the entire thing to fit under the hood of my Tomo. But yes, this is near enough what I figure we would do. And yeah, to answer the unspoken question, I do indeed need to tear apart this interior to get to that hookup and everything that is hooked up to. So yes, fun indeed. New plan. Whoops, getting tripped over. New plan. After some exploratory uncovering, I've discovered that, in fact, there are no wires underneath this carpet, so I don't need to strip this interior per se. Neat. What I do need to do is remove this panel, because at the very least I need to get the wiring, pardon me, the wiring for the fuel pump out of there. And yeah, if this is all indeed under the car, might be a little bit easier to yank everything out. And yes, if you thought this Miata couldn't get any more gross, it was smoked in too. And 16 bolts later, I finally have this off. I did find some wiring here, so I'm going to be exploring and finding out what that is, if I need it, and finding other wires as well. Fun. So, there are loads and loads and loads of these, which are plastic, that are nice little clips that hold these wiring harnesses, this wiring loom, to the body. I'm going to be clipping them all, or most of them, whatever I can get away with. I'm just mostly telling you this because I'm telling myself this, that it's okay to do this, and I need to steal this idea from Mazda. Okay, so as part of my plan to extract the wiring loom, I need to take the whole dash out. And thing number one is you can apparently just drop the steering column. It just goes kerplunk. I can't get these seats out because these bolts here are rusted to the not the frame, but the floorboard, floor pans. There's no way to get these out, so I'm just gonna have to proceed forward and see if I can drop this steering wheel, get this gauge cluster out, which is already kind of halfway there. And, you know, there's a lot of bolts missing on this thing anyway, so this shouldn't be that difficult. But, yes, I am indeed going to have to extract this dash. I did it. That is, got the gauge cluster out. How you do that? You have to push on the back hand of this thing. This being the speedometer cable. Was it hard? Oh yes, very hard. My hand hurts. I did want to note, though, that it's kind of nice that the Miata gauge cluster has everything very neatly articulated and labeled. So I know that Terminal C on this white hookup, this being the black hookup, which is also very clever, so that you don't confuse the two. That there is your check engine light. Fortunately, I'm totally not going to like daisy chain off of this to my check engine light, which would be down here on the other car. Just like, it's literally just a light that has the symbol. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to take from the ECU, which is kind of hanging out up there in a bucket, and just wire straight to that light. And much easier than doing all this late 80s crap. But yes, now that that is out, I have a hunch that like most of this is really all loose anyway, so there's like 3 or 4 things to do, maybe a bolt or 2, and then I can yank this out and finally get all of the wires out that I need. Well, I made progress. This is the shattered remains of the dash. It's not too bad. I can put it back together. But there were several bolts missing, like that. Not on that side, but on the other side, there were a couple bolts missing, and that thing. This doesn't go as far down as advertised, but whatever. I was able to get it out anyway. And all of this to extract that wiring and that fat wad of wires that go. Some go over there and join up with those wires, which are the ECU wires, and some I think just go under the dash here, eventually ending up under the. Some eventually end up under the hood, some don't. I am not going to be using most of these, but I'm going to be extracting it all anyway because it's all bundled together, and trying to extract my fuel pump wire, for example, wires collection, is going to be a pain in the booty from all of that and from all, underneath there. It's easier to just extract the entire wiring loom. To whomever buys this poor, sad little Miata, I'm really sorry. Oh, yeah. Well, it still works. But yeah, it should be all right. I mean, hey, if you're going to put an LS in here or something like that, you're going to need to rewire everything after all anyway. So, yeah. I'm quite happy with my progress today. That is to say, I'm not, but I'm just saying. For the camera, I'm quite happy with my progress today. Tomorrow, if all goes according to plan, it's extracting all of the things, all of the wires. At last. Oh joy.